Hey everybody, welcome to Badger Run. This is our first attempt at distance learning. I'm volunteer Laura, and this is Dexter, our turkey vulture. So today we're going to start off by talking about vultures. Um, Turkey vultures are the only type of vulture that we have in Oregon, and Dexter came in to us in 2015 after being hit by a car. In fact, hit by cars are number one reason for intakes here, about 30%. So Dexter was hit by a car. You see this one wing does not extend fully. Um, the people who found him tried a little do-it-yourself rehab. I don't think they realized that wildlife rehabbers were out here. And they kept him for over 2 weeks with no medical attention. And that allowed the wing to heal improperly. You only have about 2 weeks for bone to heal in a bird. So by the time we got Dexter, we couldn't do anything to fix that wing. So he is considered unflighted. Can never be released because you just see that does not extend. Um, Now, turkey vultures are a very docile, very social, interactive bird. They are scavengers, as are all vultures. We only have three types of vultures in this country. We have California condors, we have black vultures, and we have turkey vultures. All of these vultures are nature's cleanup crew. Now, you might wonder how these birds eat all these horrible things and they don't get ill from them. Uh, Botulism, anthrax, rabies, the like. Turns out vultures have stomach acid like battery acid, pH 1 and below depending on the species. So they can eat anything pretty much in the way of bacteria or virus. It doesn't survive in that tummy. Um, in fact, there was one study, I don't know what type of vulture that they used, but they cultured 528 different species off the beak of a vulture. Two came out the other end. So they have very clean poop. Now, along that line, one of the ways that vultures cool off and clean off their legs is by pooping straight down on their legs. Well, that makes sense now that you know that their feces are relatively bacteria free. Now, another reason that people think vultures are a little gross, other than that they poop straight down on their legs, is that bald head. That is for good hygiene. That adorable little bald head keeps their feathers from getting gunked up by them sticking their faces in all those decaying carcasses that they eat. So it just lets them clean off easier. If they had feathers matting down, they just probably end up with an infection. Um, Now, the other kind of weird thing about vultures is you can see straight through the nasal passage. Again, this is for good hygiene. If think about where they're sticking their faces in those rotting carcasses. So they're going to pound all that rotting flesh up their nasal passages. If you've got a see-through nose like that, it's quite easy to blow out. In fact, I bet Dexter could even pick his own nose. Now, turkey vultures have a very, very large nasal passage compared to some of the other vultures because this is a type of vulture that hunts by sense of smell. In fact, this bird is thought by many to have the best sense of smell out of all 10,000 species of birds out there. He can smell dead stuff over a mile away. Now, the other two species I mentioned of vulture that we have in this country, the black vultures and the California condors, they look for the dead stuff. So in territories where there are rather areas of the country where their territories overlap with turkey vultures, they'll actually follow these guys because they know they'll smell it before they see it. Um, Now, vultures, there's 23 species of them worldwide. 16 are threatened or endangered non-critically, including our California condors. Like I mentioned, this is nature's cleanup crew. So this can actually end up being a public health hazard where their populations have been decimated. In this country, our California condors, critically endangered. Their biggest threat is due to poisoning by humans through lead. Lead ammunition that gets left out in the environment. Say in a carcass that's been shot with lead that the hunter hasn't found. A gut pile that gets left above ground. That's going to be laced with lead microfragments, and any lead ingested by any animal is going to cause some degree of lead poisoning. In birds, it's quite acute. A piece of lead the size of a grain of rice is enough to kill an eagle. So if you want to learn more about hunting lead-free, go to huntingwithnolead.org. And I'll try and put up a link on our page to that website for you as well. They're being decimated in Africa. Poachers hate vultures, and that's primarily their biggest threat right now. The vultures in Africa are the poachers. Because what do vultures do? They find a carcass, they circle it. Well, you've got a big flag up there in the air telling rangers that there's a potentially poached carcass in the environment. So since the vultures tip off the rangers, the poachers try to kill all the vultures that they can. In fact, last year, they laced an elephant carcass with poison deliberately to kill vultures and wiped out about 500 endangered vultures in Botswana in one go. So they're thinking between 90 to 95% of the vulture population has been decimated in Africa. In 30 to 50 years, there may not even be vultures in Africa for us. Now, India is another case in point about poisoning. It was totally accidental, but it's a really good lesson in what happens when your vultures go away. They had about 40 million vultures in India at the beginning of the 90s. By the mid-2000s, they were down to about 10,000 vultures. So that's quite a hit to the population. It was a total accident. They'd introduced a painkiller in their livestock called diclofenac. In Asia, typically when livestock dies, they leave it out in the field for the vultures to clean up. It's real cheap and real easy. And you depend on a lot of vultures coming in to feed. Well, diclofenac, as it turns out, is deadly toxic to vultures. So any vulture feeding on a carcass that's been treated with this drug, the bird will be dead in roughly 48 hours from kidney failure. So they accidentally wiped out all their vultures. Well, what moved in to take the vulture's place? Stray dogs. Remember I mentioned vultures have stomach acid about pH 1? Dogs do not have stomach acid that strong. So what happened were all of the dogs were coming in to clean up these carcasses, about 12 million tons of carcasses a year in India, and they started getting all the diseases off the decaying carcasses. And they also don't get rabies shots. So then they started spreading rabies throughout the population of the dogs. All of those diseases got brought back into human populations. They did a 10-year study, and the incidence of rabies in humans tripled in India. It was already #1 in the world. 50,000 additional human deaths due to the vultures being wiped out, and 34 billion in healthcare costs related to it. So these birds are super important to the environment. Now, turkey vultures are also known as peace eagles by the Cherokee tribe. They have the wingspan of an eagle, but they never kill anything. So that was kind of a cool name for them, peace eagles. These birds are found all the way from southern Canada down into South America, very widespread, the turkey vulture. And you'll see them riding thermals, the warm air that rises off the earth. The record on one of these birds, just riding thermals without flapping, is 6 hours. They are amazing to watch in the air. This bird is sort of our harbinger of spring in the Klamath Basin. They show up at the beginning of March generally. They migrate out of here in the winter because they do not have the armor that they need in order to be a bird of prey. They are a scavenger, so they have toenails. These are not talons. These are like toenails on your puppy dog. And this is not a sharp ripping beak. So this beak is not going to rip through frozen peat in the wintertime. So they have to leave to find food that they can actually consume. The other thing is, I mentioned they hunt by a sense of smell. You can't smell the dead stuff in the cold weather. So they generally leave for much warmer climates. Just go over on the coast or head south. So that's our limited series right now on a turkey vulture, and we hope to see you soon on another distance learning edition. Bye.